Thank you first so much for reaching out on social media to look for podcast guests. I am delighted to be here with you, and I am so glad that we're finally connecting. I know we've crossed paths in the past. And my name is Kathryn Laster, and I am celebrating 35 years in education, and I am passionate about designing and facilitating professional learning that is intentional and human-centered and tech-infused.
All right.
So previously I was a digital learning consultant at an education service center, which serves 10 counties and about 100 districts and charters and private nonprofits. And this was in the North Texas area.
Got Dallas area? Okay.
And then before that, I was an instructional coach and a secondary math teacher. Yay, math.
All right.
And I've had fabulous conversations with so many educators. And, you know, anytime teachers, educators get together to chat, there is always fabulous information that comes from that. So I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you on the show. And how many years in education did you say?
35.
We need a round of applause for you for that. That is pretty sweet. 35 years.
Yes.
Wow, you've seen, the hot word right now and for the past 2 years has been AI, but you saw the transition, that paradigm shift from overhead to document camera,
yes.
from whiteboard to interactive whiteboard.
Well, chalkboard first. When
Chalkboard,
when
that's
I first
right.
started.
Ooh, chalkboard, man. And then we can also go Rizzo machine.
What is that?
The one with the purple ink.
Oh,
that
yes.
Sometimes you had to roll.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, man. I could still smell it.
Smell it, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, yeah, we've crossed paths many times. Mm-hmm. And I know that we are connected on at least one or two social media channels and that. But when I did send a message saying if there's anybody who wants to record at GAETC, let me know. And you sent me a message. Mm-hmm. And you are definitely Texas. So I was like, absolutely. But I think it's interesting and a little weird that two Texas individuals connected in Georgia.
I know. I love it.
Right?
Right. That's what conference learning can do.
Absolutely.
Building your network even out of state.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you, me, and Tisha Poncio had a conversation earlier off mic. We'll see if we can touch upon that in a little bit because there's a lot of background there. But we want to talk about professional learning.
Yes.
And what your work in doing that. So, first off, would you say that there is a difference between professional development and professional learning?
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you for noticing
Good
that.
segue.
Yes,
right?
Noticing that distinction.
Okay, talk to us.
Okay, so thinking about professional development, to me, it seems like an educator needs some help. They have to be developed. And so I think that the learning process instead is reflective, collaborative, that processing time. You can decide if you're going to implement the strategies or implement whatever is shared in the learning. But I know there's still a lot of PD versus PL, but I am all for professional learning.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you were to if you were in an elevator with somebody right now, going back to your hotel room or what have you, and somebody was to ask you, hey, can you differentiate? Can you just give me the quick and dirty? What is the difference between professional development and professional learning in 30 seconds?
I think that professional development would mean that there is an expert who is leading the crowd, leading the people, they're imparting their knowledge and their wisdom, and that is trying to develop the people who have some kind of lack of knowledge or some sort of deficiency.
Okay.
And so then professional learning, though, is more a collaborative approach, facilitated. It is providing resources. The educators in the session or in the workshop or webinar would have choice. They have the voice. They have opportunities to collaborate in multiple ways.
Okay.
And so a more participant or learner-centered.
Got it.
So that's what I'm thinking of professional learning.
What category of those two would coaching fall under?
Professional learning.
Professional learning.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that is the best type of professional learning. It is job embedded, real time,
personal,
very personalized.
Yes,
needs, in the moment, working with the your coachees, our client. Yeah.
Okay. All right. 35 years. Give us all the roles that you've played in public education.
So I started my career as an 8th grade math teacher.
Okay.
And so I do love the middle school, the little squirmy.
It's a special population, special.
It is.
Yeah, it really is.
It is. And it is a special person who can handle or work with and love on those middle schoolers.
Absolutely.
So I really enjoyed that. And then our school was transforming into just a 7th, 8th grade campus.
Okay.
And then we had a 9th grade center being built. And at that time, I was teaching all 9th grade. And so I chose to move to the high school. And the amazing thing about that is my last year of 9th graders moved to the high school with me. And I taught 2 ladies 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade math.
Whoa.
So algebra 1 to pre-calculus. And I just ran into one of them last week.
No way.
Yes. So shout out Lauren Hager.
My gosh.
So it was so delightful to be able to see her and think back. She graduated in 2001. So.
Oh my gosh.
So
that is insane.
Met her kids.
So cool.
And, yes.
You met her kids?
Yes.
Oh man.
So.
That is so awesome. So I do have to say one story.
Okay.
I remember going to go get an oil change on my wife's car. This was when we were living in Arizona. This might have been 8-9 years ago. No, 9 to 10 years ago. And I was waiting. Her car had already been taken into the bay, and it was up, and they were doing their thing. And then one of my former students walked in, and she recognized me. Hey, Mr. Carrillo, how you doing? I gave her a hug and everything. And then the first words out of her mouth were, Mr. Carrillo, I am so sorry and I kind of let her speak, but I was taken back a little bit. And she said, I'm so sorry for how I acted in your class. I had her for 7th grade math. Mm-hmm. And she said, I have a daughter in kindergarten. And I'm so sorry because I'm seeing it now as her mother. She was never a bad kid, though. She never gave me a hard time, but I think she just felt that need. But did you get any of that from her with her daughter? Like, oh my God, I now know what it feels like?
She was a fabulous student.
Okay.
So she was a top student.
Yeah.
So did not have a problem with her.
Okay.
So
what other roles in public education have you had? You did mention that you were
instructional coach.
Instructional coach. Mm-hmm. Different districts call it different things.
Right.
Specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So I did a lot of mentor, new teacher sort of work.
Yeah.
I also helped plan professional learning on our campus, and I think that really started my role as being interested in professional learning. And then my last 4 years on a campus, I had the dual role, and it was instructional coach. We called it specialist.
Yeah.
And then I taught 2 math classes as well. So It was great because I could share, hey, I just tried this in my class first period, and then how...
You got a chance to put it through the ringer first.
Correct. And so that was so fabulous. And then this is really when technology started being embedded in schools. And luckily, when you teach pre-calculus, there aren't the standards that are tested. And so my accountability was to the calculus teacher. And so I had a lot more flexibility to play with the technology. And I started blogging with my students.
Oh, all right.
And so then that helped me get hired as my role as a digital learning consultant because my director Googled me, looked at my social media presence.
Got it.
And so then...
They did their due diligence.
Right. And then worked at the Education Service Center and then served all kinds of roles, helping educators, administrators, really think about what does meaningful technology integration look like. So that was the last role.
Awesome. Now, does the name Tisha Poncio ring a bell at all?
It vaguely rings a bell.
It vaguely rings a bell. Okay, so I don't think I've ever done this on the show, but I actually have another microphone set up here, just waiting for Miss Tisha Poncio to jump on over. So, get on in here, Tisha. Throw that headset on. And all right.
Hello.
Bring that right up to you.
Okay. Right up to me.
There you go.
Okay, there we go.
All
Are we
right.
on camera?
And we are on camera as well.
Amazing.
So,
Fancy meeting you
I'm
all here.
going to step back. I'm going to ask a question and step back, and I want you guys to discuss.
Okay.
How did this happen?
Well, once upon a time in 2015.
No, I looked it up. The first time you were on any of my spreadsheets, it was September 2016. So that was the first time. That
Once
was
upon a time in 2016, I decided to take a class called Digital Fluency, and Kathryn just so happened to be the teacher. And she sparked my interest back into EdTech with a platform that you might be familiar with, sadly, Flipgrid.
R.I.P.
Let's
R.I.P.
mourn for a minute.
Yeah.
And that started what you see of Tisha Poncio today, which Kathryn Lester would never admit that she started that ball rolling, just like my English teacher in 9th grade wouldn't admit that. But when you have powerful, pivotal women empowering you, they create a ripple effect. And that is exactly what Kathryn has done for me. And I hope that that ripple has been passed on to the people that I've gotten to work with as well.
Let me wipe away the tears. Thank you, Tisha.
You're so
I
welcome.
think I have a harp. No, that's the wrong one. Okay, all right. Somewhat of a sound. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you kind of tapped out for a bit,
I did.
and then Kathryn over here kind of pulled you back into
She
this
did.
EdTech world. Okay, she introduced you to Flip. Is that what it was?
Yes, in digital fluency classes with Kathryn, I did not just the first one, but the second one and whatever levels she had after that. So I kept signing up for Kathryn's classes, and she was intent about not just teaching us how to use the tools for teaching, but the research behind it and making connections with books and other educators. She gave us room to collaborate, to talk to each other, to problem solve, to even ask questions, or for some of the veteran teachers in the room, be a little negative on the platform. And I'm talking about myself. And,
That's why I laughed, because I knew.
yes, I am
right
talking about myself. And she did. She revealed something. She peeled back something in me that had been there, but I didn't know that it was there. And that caused me to change how I was teaching and how I was connecting with my educators and coaching them, and how I was thinking. And in conversations today, Gabe, after you left us earlier, I had an epiphany.
Well, let's
about
back up a
Kathryn.
little bit. What do you mean I left you?
You left
You
us.
made it sound like I just left, like I just bounced. And
He
took
came
off.
here to set up the studio.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
Let's just clear that up, right?
Yes. But I was thinking back to why Kathryn had this ripple effect in my life, because we always know the people that do over the course of our lives, but sometimes we forget to think of why. And in our conversations, I realized that Kathryn, it said so much about the teacher she was, because she was a math teacher. I remember that. The reason I remember that is because math was not my best subject. And here's why. My whole life, I was living with ADHD and did not know until this year. So I just thought I was really bad at math, or I was told that I was maybe lazy, or you don't deliver things the way everybody else does. And I thought that was a failure in myself. Kathryn sees something in each of her students, whether they are K-12 students or adult learners. And I think that she saw that in all of us in that room. But for me, I didn't know how much I needed that time and space to explore and be curious and ask questions and practice and process. And Kathryn gave me that. And looking back, I think that was really why I kept returning to her classroom, was because she created this safe space as an adult learner with undiagnosed ADHD to be able to take what she was teaching me and apply it successfully in the classroom with students, which is what essentially led me to create the student leadership group that I created as a classroom teacher, which then led me to Wakelet, which then led me to ISTE. And that is it's a full circle moment sitting here with her. So
thank you, Tisha.
And the table is a circle. I just like to say that too. So, Kathryn, do you know of the effect that you have on people and people in this role? So if you are a coach listening or watching, instructional coach, EdTech coach, specialist, 21st century digital, whatever the heck your district calls it, do you know of the effect that you have on people?
I do not.
Okay.
And I think that's true of so many coaches, and you don't hear those affirmations. And I am just blown away, Tisha, by your kind words. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving us this space.
Absolutely. And I saw you guys talking at the Wakelet booth. I actually, no, you and I were talking, and Kathryn, you came up. Or I don't even remember.
I said,
yes.
Wait, I have a podcast. Is that Gabriel?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and I was like, Tisha, can you introduce us? And then she went.
That's right. That's right. So full circle, here we are. And, I just happened to see you yesterday in passing.
Yes.
We got a chance to catch up. We hadn't caught up in quite some time. And I had no idea that you guys actually knew each other. Nevertheless, have this background that you guys have. So I almost feel like I should go get lunch while you guys just talk and take over, because this literally could be your show. So, Kathryn, so those classes that you offered that Tisha attended, what were the classes that you put together, and what was the thinking behind those classes? And Tisha, from your perspective, what drew you in? And then not only that, but what kept you wanting more after? And go.
So now, reflecting back, I understand that this was high-quality professional learning or transformative professional learning. It was collaborative, but you had a choice. There were some things that were kind of silent solo. There were things that were partnered, but learning is social. So I think that's an important element. It was also grounded in the ISTE standards for educators, and so we had our objectives. We were going through each of those standards, and we wanted to make sure that that was grounding all of our learning. We had, really worked to make sure that we were modeling what should happen in classrooms. So the pedagogy was the priority. It's always learning first and then technology second. And so we would try tools and reflect, well, I wouldn't use this tool because I really want to make sure that I can get quick feedback, so let's try something else. And then the other thing, it was sustained. And so it wasn't a one and done professional learning. It was a semester long first rotation, and then we did another semester with the second. And then there was work in between. So time to process, time for that reflection, and then kind of holding you accountable, because we had the project at the end, which ended up being, in that second year, your SWAT team.
Right.
And so thinking about all of those qualities, I could not articulate that in 2016, but now reflecting back on that, I see those are all elements of transformative professional learning, and that's what I aspire to design. And, everything that we do should be like that. So I think if I had one more thing, I wish that we had been more Zoom ready at the time, because then it would be fun to do like coaching, make it more blended than it was. So So those are my reflections from that.
I think for me, the reason I kept returning was I had not been attending professional development that wasn't one and done. I was getting professional development on the assigned days that I was getting it, and it was in that 1 hour or that one day, and there was no follow-up, there was no reflection pieces. It was kind of like, okay, we did that. I took notes. I can go back to those notes, but it was that continuous learning. It never stopped. And I think that is really what you taught me, and that's why I kept going back, because I just kept learning, and I kept meeting new people, and I kept processing, and I kept taking what you said and applying it with my teachers or my students. And then I was able in that real world setting to see, okay, this didn't work, this did work. And I was able to really self-assess and self-reflect and see if what we were talking about in the classes were making a difference in that classroom. So I was getting evidence of that. And I think that is really, I just kept returning because the experience was so good, and it was like nothing I had ever experienced. And that really, again, led me to create the SWAT class, the SWAT team. I started doing leadership with them and kind of doing, like, modeling what Kathryn taught me. And because of that, that's what led me to go back and get my master's degree, because I, as a leader, am never going to ask people to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I was asking my students, like you said, modeling, to do these things. And so I was doing it right alongside them, not realizing that I was growing with them.
All right. Now, for those of you watching or listening, when you hear the word SWAT, can you define that? Because when I think of SWAT, I think of someone I never want in my house, and people who kick down doors. And so talk to us about SWAT.
So we chose that name because it made people wonder.
Like I did.
Exactly. It stood for Students Who Advocate Technology, and we were a one-to-one campus, and I was trying to decide how to service and manage devices on my campus. That was 900 plus devices. And how do I bring the students into that so that they can learn something, so that they can see the effects of technology in a classroom? How are they using it? How are they going to teach it to their peers? And then I did something crazy and said, let's teach the teachers. And that class evolved into something incredible where they were getting certifications. They were presenting globally. That was not part of my plan when I said I just kind of need some help passing out devices, but it evolved into something incredible. Interestingly enough, even this morning, I had a conversation with a couple of former students who, they're now adults. They're in their adult jobs. But creating evidence, they're still doing that, creating evidence of their learning and their leadership. And so you want to leverage what students are doing now. And they're doing a lot with technology. So how are we leveraging it? And what does the research say? Because Kathryn and I will always go back to research, Gabe. I know it's boring.
I love research.
Yes, but sometimes you have to go back to the basics, and research will help validate the why.
And especially in the eyes of administrator. If there's no data or numbers attached to it, then we can't validate what we would like to do. Now, Kathryn, when you were putting this, it sounds like a cohort almost.
It was.
It was a cohort? Okay. It's funny you say that, because as you were talking about it, I started thinking about this professional learning task force that I'm on within my district, and we're putting together a cohort that we're kicking off June 3rd, actually. Or now June 12th. I'm sorry, January. It's like January 11th or something, the second week of January. And that's exactly what we have in mind. Putting that together, did you know that you would ultimately have people who literally transform what they do? So now we're talking into transformative learning and transformative professional learning and development. So talk us through a little bit, like what did that cohort look like as far as what the participants had to do to be a part of the cohort?
So the way that this worked, most of the opportunities were volunteer rather than voluntold. And so I think that was important. They wanted to be there. They had permission to, we were there a full day of training. So it was substitutes for a lot of teachers. The districts where we chose, they were building capacity, so maybe they did not have a department of EdTech coaches or digital specialists, or maybe there was one and they needed to build a team. And so I think the decisions were very intentional, but it was all volunteer. We knew that the standards were going to be a huge part of it, so it also needed to be, well, they were interested, this district at least had some familiarity with the ISTE standards. And then I think we had about, in our first one, maybe 25 or 30, and then round 2 it decreased a little bit, and it was about every 6 weeks. So our sessions were 1 full day, every 6 weeks for 1 semester, so we met 4 times. And then when I did my research in my Google Sheets, do you remember the tool called TAC?
Yes.
So it was a blog kind of tool that allowed you to comment on posts. And so I wanted to have some sort of reflection, but I wanted people to have feedback on each of their reflections. So I gave them a little assignment connected to the ISTE standard. And so like digital citizenship. So then show evidence of how you're using one of these indicators from the ISTE standard, and then do a little reflection piece and post a picture, eventually do a Flipgrid recording. And then the first time we would come back, it would be give feedback to the person you're assigned to. So they read each other's posts and their blogs and then gave feedback to one another. So
that was powerful. The fact that you were using ISTE standards, and that is something that I apply now today, taking my state standards, Texas, and then merging them together with ISTE standards. Because when I do that, I at least know as an educator I'm hitting what I need to hit plus some. And those ISTE standards, being able to experience that. So I knew what the experience was so that I could create that experience for my students. That was the powerful thing. And that is something that, like, I'll still talk to you about ISTE standards. I am that kind of nerd, Gabe. If you see me at a conference and you want to talk about standards, I will do
connected
that.
students, 4 point whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Student is 1 point whatever.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, you're right.
yes.
And then after that, student
educator,
that's
too.
right, connected
Yes.
educator. Okay.
Yes, we'll
Okay.
talk to you about standards all day.
Got checked on my own show. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so transformative learning, the outcome, and the ripple effect that it could have, and essentially where it could go. Now, Tisha, actually, Kathryn, you talked about being a math teacher. In middle school, you transitioned to the high school, and then you became the digital learning consultant. Is that what the district called it?
No, I was an instructional specialist, is what our district called it, and then became the digital learning consultant.
Okay, all right. Tisha, you went from
Classroom teacher. I was
what
wearing
grade?
that hat, high school.
Okay.
And then I became an instructional technology specialist, then a digital learning coach, because they changed the name. But
title.
I did that K through 12. And then because of my work with my students, doing portfolios and evidence of learning, that is how I learned about Wakelet. And then I've been working at Wakelet for the last 3.5 years as, well, a lot of different things. But community engagement, so engaging the community, supporting educators, supporting students, student leadership.
I will say, every time those Wakelet, what are you guys called? The events where you ask that question, the multiple questions that come about through the emails, they're always when I have a meeting. Every single time. And I'm like, oh. If I reply in the community, I'm not going to get any work done. I know myself. I'm going to go all in.
Oh, you're talking about the community hub with the chats?
Yes. Okay, there you go. The community.
Yes, the community hub. And we do these chats, so they are,
they're like at 11.
They're asynchronous chats, though. You can always come back to them.
Yeah, they are. But I got to be in the moment. When I see it come up, I'm like, I see the email. And then when the next email comes out, because I have subscribed to the emails every time somebody posts on there, I'm like, oh, I want to answer this one. But it's in the middle of a meeting, and then sometimes I get called on like, Oh, yeah. And then I'll answer, and it's like, oh, man, if you could do them at 5 o'clock.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right. We can go on for a long time, but I know that time is of the essence. You got to get back to your booth.
Yes.
You've got things you got to do. I got things I got to do as well. So, really quickly, how can people connect with you, Kathryn?
I am on the Twitter, Twix. Okay. KK Laster, Laster. And my new website for my LLC is refinedlearningdesign.com.
All right. And that's a separate conversation that you and I are going to have about independent consulting.
Yes.
All right. Tisha, how can people connect with you?
There's so many ways. I think the easiest way right now is to just Google search Tisha Poncio because you will see I have a new website that is up that I haven't actually publicly shared yet, but it is there. You will find me on X. What did you call it?
Twix.
That's
Big
funny.
shout out to Carl Hooker. He's the one who put me on the Twix. Yeah.
Instagram. What else? LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I read a lot of articles there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah. That's probably the best thing. LinkedIn, Tisha Poncio.
Okay.
You'll find me.
All right. I know your answer. Kathryn, I've never had you on the show, so I'm not sure how you're going to answer this. And I'm not sure if your opinion has changed since then. So, $1 million question, most difficult question you're going to be asked the entire conference, okay? Corn tortilla or flour tortilla?
Oh, depends. Can I do that? No.
You can't have one leg over the fence. And
Okay. We'll do flour.
Okay. Tisha?
What did I say last time? Someone can back check this because I don't remember, but I'm going to say corn tortilla. And can I just add this, Gabe? Because I know this is going to interest you and pique the interest of everyone else. And we're all from Texas. I'm in Atlanta right now, and I have found a place that has the best tacos that I've ever had. And I know that
had?
I love them.
Oh.
I will share it with you.
Why did we not have them here for this conversation?
But corn tortillas.
Okay, good. It's a good one. We got one from each. Okay, all right. Well, what's the name of the place?
I
don't remember.
I can't pronounce it.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. What did you have?
The tacos that I can't pronounce this either, but you dip them in the sauce.
Birria?
That's it. And I came all the way from Texas to Atlanta and took my friends Jen Hall and Ryan McGinnis.
Jen Hall. I wish I would have had her on the show, but okay.
We did. We shared some tacos. It's good. I will share it with you so that you
that
have
sounds
it.
good. That's a good reason for not having them because that would have been a dirty.
It's messy. It's messy. You got to be ready.
That would have been ASMR. Would have been finger licking.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole another audience as well. Yeah. So all right, sounds good. Well, I want to thank you both for everything that you are contributing to our educational space, everything that you do, all your experience that you're doing, that you bring to the table, everything that you've accumulated and have ready in your belt at any time, and any of that experience that you can help pass on to us educators, to any educator out there, and the multiple perspectives that you bring to the table, and now globally with the independent consulting. Tisha, I want to thank you for everything that you are doing as a learner, as someone who's taking that learning and teaching it forward to the next generation of educators and students, and making sure that students, we hyper-focus on the student learning and the outcomes that we want with our students under the lens of the ISTE standards, in your case also with the Texas TEKS, the Texas standards, but it doesn't matter what state you're from. But if you align what you're doing with what ISTE has in their standards, then it's all about student outcomes and teacher professional learning. So thank you both for what you do, and thank you, Kathryn, for bringing her back in.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, Gabe.
Is there anything else? All right, okay. Is there anything else, anything you want to say to Kathryn? Kathryn, anything you would like to say to Tisha? And this is where we'll end.
My heart is already full. Thank you, Tisha. I so appreciate your support and your kind words, and that really means a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you for putting time and effort into everything that you do. And you know that I'm always going to thank you. I'm just glad I got to do it publicly today.
And we will end on that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, guys. Thank you, both of you, for everything that you do, and enjoy the rest of the conference and the rest of our time together.